Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Swiswiki. Coming up, recent floods bring back painful memories for a Samoan resident. Also,
but what we would like to do is to reduce those who are ending up in settlements in the cities.
Fiji's Prime Minister is hopeful Fijians can join Australia's military, and
one of my highlights today actually was going along to a softball game that was between Guam and PNGs.
Some more updates from the Pacific Mini Games. With New Zealand's recent weather warnings and widespread flooding, a Samoan man whose home in Marlborough was affected says the experience triggered haunting memories of the 2009 tsunami that devastated his home village of Alipata. Grace Vivai spoke with Tawinaola and filed this report.
Tawinaola Timoia Iala was born and raised in Samoa and moved to Aotearoa over 7 years ago to join his wife and children. Now living on a rural property in Marlborough, he says life there reminds him of home.
However, when I came there too, and if you know in the rural area of Lalomanu, it's like the rural area here, what we call the countryside, which is the same, and that's why I thought when I moved here, I was happy to live for the farm life, but when I moved here, things weren't easy. It was a struggle.
Experiencing his home being flooded for the first time in Aotearoa, Tawinaola Timoia Iala says it brought back memories of the 2009 tsunami in Samoa. The September 29 tsunami claimed over 120 lives and destroyed entire villages. It also affected American Samoa and Tonga. Tawinaola says he used the experience from the tsunami to act fast, getting his family and neighbours to safety.
My mind went back to the time of the tsunami. People's hearts broke, and during the tsunami, there was a lot of sadness among the village and people who lost their loved ones from the natural disaster. And now that this has happened, I thank God that this happened, and I've had the experience.
As the flood waters rose last week, Tawinaola acted swiftly and donned his gears to get his family to somewhere dry.
On the day it happened, we were thinking it was just rain. My kids said it looked like snow. I said it's not snow, it's flooded water. I quickly got changed into my work clothes and started to get my family to the other side of the farm to safety.
As of Thursday afternoon, Nelson, Tasman and Marlborough remained under a state of emergency and the region's under new orange heavy rain warnings. Civil Defence is warning people whose properties flooded last week to prepare for more heavy rain and to consider staying elsewhere. For the latest news on the weather, head on over to our website, rnz.co.nz.
Fiji's Prime Minister hopes the Australia Defence Force, or ADF, takes on Fijian personnel. The ADF is looking at potentially recruiting Pacific Islanders due to a shortage of 5,000 soldiers. Lydia Lewis has more.
Fijians already serve in the British Army. When asked by a member of the press how many Fijians could be on offer to Australia, this was Sitivani Rambuka's response.
The whole lot, 5,000. We easily fill in our quota in the pounds, and there is still a long waiting list. But what we would like to do is to reduce those who are ending up in settlements in the cities and not working, giving way to crime, victims to the sale of drugs and AIDS and HIV.
Mr Rambuka is in Australia this week and spoke to the National Press Club in Canberra covering several themes. He was asked a lot about China.
Right now, we are having to cope with a China that is big, really big, and has gotten powerful and would probably like to spread its influence to the Pacific.
And another China question on security cooperation.
China's participation in our development should not affect how we interact with Australia and New Zealand and America.
He was then asked whether he would welcome China building a military base in the Pacific. Mr Rambuka says not on his watch.
If they want to come, who would welcome them? I do not believe that China would even need a base in the Pacific. They have proven that they do not need a base outside China to be able to launch what they have into any other area of the world. They can go east of China and go as far east in America as they like, to the furthest point in Europe as they like. So there is really no need for them to set up any other bases in the Pacific.
He says he will try and use his influence to encourage other Pacific countries to take the same view, as long as he's Prime Minister. A position he stressed China understands.
Fiji and China understand our sovereignty issues. We respect their sovereignty and we expect them to respect ours.
He says Pacific nations are trying to maintain their friends to all and enemies to none policy.
Well, Xi Jinping has been a great leader,
which is proving, as he put it, to be a fairly tough course to steer.
Still in Fiji, the former head of the country's anti-corruption agency may try to have the damning Commission of Inquiry reports into her appointment quashed. Barbara Malimali's lawyer says her client's reputation has been destroyed and she's keen to clear her name. Margot Staunton reports.
On Monday, Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka released a redacted copy of the final report on the government's website, but leaked versions have been circulating for weeks. The Commissioner of the inquiry, Justice David Ashton-Lewis, exposed what he called a systemic failure of integrity at the highest levels of Fiji's government and justice systems. Justice Ashton-Lewis said Malimali's appointment was legally invalid, ethically reprehensible and procedurally corrupted. Tanya Wanganitha, who acts for Ms Malimali, says the inquiry went outside its terms of reference. She believes lawyers involved in the inquiry will try to have the report thrown out on this basis. She claims Ashton-Lewis's public comments destroyed Malimali's career.
Ashton-Lewis said in a podcast he made defamatory and derogatory comments.
What kind of comments?
Based on the podcast, he said universally corrupt. And this is a lady, a professional woman that has built up her legal career, I believe, over 20 years. And that statement alone has pretty much destroyed her career. So she is adamant on clearing her name. And who would? Given what I'm hearing through the grapevine, they will take action on the Commission of Inquiry. They will look at quashing the Commission of Inquiry report because it went outside their terms of reference. For us, we have to wait for our clients. If my client trucks us, we will do it for the High Court.
Is that a lengthy legal process?
Oh, it is.
I guess it depends whether your client's got the money to do something like that, isn't it?
Money is an issue for her. She's a lawyer. It's an issue of clearing her name. I know what it's like being fired. It's not easy. And I guess when you're a woman, you've got to work twice as hard to regain back your integrity, regardless of your age, your ethnicity. We women have to work twice as hard.
How would you go about it?
We would have to file an important declaration to have it quashed. Then we'll have to put in our legal submission. So not only me, the other lawyers that are mentioned in there, knowing their backgrounds and knowing there's a possibility that they will also do the same.
But your client was the main one who was fingered in this. Are there any other possible actions you could look at?
Our client has instructed us to write to the JSC and complain against Judge Ashton-Lewis.
On what grounds?
Misbehaviour.
What kind of misbehaviour? Can you be a little bit more specific?
I'll have to meet with her and then she will then elaborate.
What does that normally cover, misbehaviour?
Very broad. I haven't discussed with our client what are the particulars of the misbehaviour, but I believe maybe one of it would be the credentials. Huh?
What's your overall view of this Commission of Inquiry?
I know with the former Chief Justice Kamal, there was the 3-member Commission of Inquiry and there was a King's Council that came in to assist. This Commission of Inquiry, there was only one. So there's accountability and transparency. Number 2, they should have had the media in there. So there's accountability. The media was strictly not allowed in there. And my observation is you should have had 3 commissioners and they should have had 2 at least judges, local judges and an expert commissioner, expert judge. And open it to the media, open it to the public. It's made the coalition government look bad. And, you got elections around the corner. So somebody who advised the Prime Minister and the President did not advise them well and did not take into account the optics. And I say this as a former member of Parliament. This doesn't look good. I'm one person that supported this coalition government and I'm just sad how it turned out.
A proposed law change for out-of-hours immigration visits has been met with some criticism from the Pasifika community, who are calling for the practice to be outlawed. The bill is a result of an official review that was carried out after a Tongan man was dawn raided in 2023, 2 years after the then government had apologised for the dawn raids in the 1970s. I caught up with Reverend Alex Tuleafua, a founding member of the Polynesian Panther Party, the group who lobbied for the apology. I began by asking him for his thoughts on the proposed law change.
Well, I think it is time for a legislative change, but whether it is this one or not is another story. But there is definitely, it's time for a legislative change.
Do you think it goes far enough?
Well, I'm looking at the whole concept of having to get a judicial warrant, and we have seen the misuse of judicial warrants in recent years with oranga tamariki. And I'm just wondering if that just moves the furniture, the out-of-hours compliance furniture around a little bit without really removing the potentiality for what is perceived in the civic community as dawn raid. I guess while that potentiality is still there, there is cause for concern, I think, not just for Pacific communities, but for all migrant ethnic minorities in Aotearoa.
Polynesian Panthers, they were instrumental in lobbying for an apology, which we saw in 2021. How do you think the legacy is being treated today?
Well, the huge driver for the Polynesian Panther Party Legacy Trust when we lobbied for the apology was healing for our community. That is the single most important motivation for even going out there and doing that. And at the time, the apology and also the ceremony around it and the idea of forgiveness and reconciliation happened as a result of that apology. And then in 2023, there was another out-of-hours compliance visit which had the perception in our community as being a dawn raid. And that then changed the nature of the apology in terms of from being an instrument of healing to now a reference point for the Pacific community to be able to say, here you are, to the government, this is what you said, and now this is what you're doing. And so it's become a very important reference. And I notice it in the review as well by Heron and Barrett, that there is a huge reference to the apology as a starting place for this conversation. So it has moved, and I think that the apology over time will also change its intent, change its purpose, and how it becomes referred to. And so in that sense, it has a life well beyond the night off, so to speak.
As you've mentioned, there was a huge emphasis on healing with this apology. But during that time, when the apology took place, there were a lot of Pacific MPs. How would you describe their commitments to addressing the effects brought on by the dawn raids?
I think that to the best of their ability and to the resources available to them at the time, I think that they've laid a very good foundation, which needs to be further developed and taken, and it will shape or change in the future. I also think the notion of providing learning opportunities was something concrete that came out of the apology, and also the ongoing collection of stories so that they might be available to the New Zealand schools, education systems, and other tertiary institutions as a learning tool, and perhaps more than just a learning tool, but something that would evoke questions of justice and questions of history, etc., to the mind of mainstream New Zealand. So in that sense, I think that it's laid a very good foundation and one that needs to be continued to develop.
Yeah, I mean, well, as I understand that Dawn Raid's Legacy Fund, it's being closed. It's going to close down soon.
Yes.
How does that make you feel?
Well, the fund might close, But these stories will continue. The work is still going to continue, whether there's funding or not. And this will be something that, Pasifika communities, as well as all ethnic minority migrant communities can look at as well in terms of getting their own stories together about their own experiences here. But in terms of the Pasifika community, we know from our experience that that our well-being here and the transmission of our stories has never ever relied on government funding. We need to remember that.
So essentially, we don't need to rely on funding just to get our stories across.
No, why should we?
Well, just coming back to the Polynesian Panthers, what does activism look like now for the organisation?
Well, the Polynesian Panther Party Legacy Trust was set up mainly to curate the legacy of the historic Polynesian Panther Party. All of the members are original Polynesian Panthers. And so here in 2021, what we are doing is curating that legacy, and we find that one way of preserving that legacy and allowing it to breathe is by intergenerational engagement. And so we've gone to hundreds of schools over the last 13 years and talked to thousands of students and hundreds of teachers about our experience growing up here in Aotearoa as New Zealand born, the first generation New Zealand born, and our experiences of racism, our experiences of prejudice. And we tell these stories not to generate any sense of guilt, but just to explain and describe what our situation is like. And we've also been active in lobbying for these stories to be part of the New Zealand schools curriculum, and that is happening. So the kind of new revolution that some of us refer to it as is conscientising the generations behind us. That's what we are doing. Conscientising the generations behind us and hopefully not repeating the same experiences that we experienced in our families when we were growing up here.
Turning our attention to the Pacific mini-games in Palau, our reporter Coco Lance is on the ground and she joins me now to provide the latest updates. Hey, talofa lava Coco, what's the atmosphere like at the mini-games so far?
Kia ora, Sana. Yeah, it's been fantastic at the moment. So in terms of being here in Palau, it's been beautiful and warm, and everyone, I think, from the athletes to the spectators and the coaches are all really enjoying and soaking up both of those things. It's been awesome to see so many different teams and nations coming together and enjoying themselves. So yeah, there's just this great sense of camaraderie. Earlier on, I was watching some of the swimming and I walked past this ice bath filled with maybe eight boys, 100-meter swimmers, and it was a group of them from Palau, Fiji, PNG, all together in the ice bath laughing and having a good chat. So yeah, just lots of positive energy and camaraderie at the moment.
Great to hear everything is going well at the games, but just turning our attention to the actual competition, has there been any changes on the medal tally? Is Tahiti still dominating?
Tahiti are still dominating right now. So last time I checked, they were leading with a total of 58 medals, 34 of those being gold. And a lot of those medals have come from their swimming, va'a, and wrestling. And they're followed by Samoa, who, again, last time I checked, were totaling around 23 medals, 12 of those being gold. And then Fiji, who have 28 total medals, but behind with about 6 gold.
And besides swimming, Coco, what other events have you been able to check out?
So one of my highlights today actually was going along to a softball game that was between Guam and PNG's women's teams, which was awesome to see. I haven't really been able to experience much softball before, so yeah, there was great chanting and again a great sense of camaraderie and everyone there was just oozing great cultural appreciation. So that was a really fun game to watch. And also went to some of the weightlifting, got to have a chat with New Zealand's Vernon Taylor, who was great to chat with and beat one of his own personal records. So yeah, weightlifting as well has been awesome. And I know that there's some archery on later today too.
So what can we expect in the next couple of days?
So tomorrow we're going to be looking forward to a few of the athletics finals. So that will be on the track, some 100-meter sprints finals, which will be awesome. And also hopefully going to be catching one of New Zealand's favourites, Samoan weightlifter David Litty as well, is supposed to be making an appearance and hopefully going to be dominating too. So that is at the top of the mind for tomorrow.
Thanks, Coco, for your time. Are there any other highlights that you can share from the games?
Honestly, I think just the games themselves have been fabulous to be here. There's been some amazing competition. Earlier today I was checking out some of the table tennis as well, and I got to meet the youngest player at the games, 9 years old, a part of the Tongan table tennis team. So that was pretty fantastic as well, just to see kind of the diversity there. So yeah, there's just so many amazing people here, so many different athletes across so many impressive sporting ventures. So yeah, a lot of talent to look out for in the next few days.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā, sui fua.